Hello everyone, this is your host, your friend, your boy, Jet Black, the one and only, here with another exciting video. And in this video, I'm going to be reacting to Godhoodism, which is a religion that I never heard of until like yesterday. I'm going to be reading this homepage for Godhoodism because it gives you a good idea of what their religion is about, or what the religion of Godhoodism is about. I learned about Godhoodism because I'm a writer. A lot of times I like to write stories, especially using AI Dungeon 2, that are about gods and different religions and mythologies and things of that nature. I recently have become interested in Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. It's something that I've known about for a while, but a lot of times when I write a story, I don't try to purposely hit all the beats of the hero's journey, but recently I have been trying to do that. One of the steps of the hero's journey involves being initiated by an all powerful being. And another step of the hero's journey is apotheosis, which is a word that more or less means like to be divine or to be like honored as a divine entity. So I was trying to look for some kind of real world religion that had to do with ascending to godhood. And that's how I ran into Godhoodism. And from the little bit that I've read, it seems kind of weird. It seems like it's one of those new age spiritual movement kind of things made into a whole religion in its own right, based on the concept of like parallel universes and quantum mechanics, and how that somehow ties into like manifestation and things of that nature. Really interesting stuff. Let's dive into this website together and let's like look at this homepage. Like I said, I haven't read everything on this homepage yet, so I don't know all the tenets of their religion. But they broke down their homepage into like a question answer format, where once you read through, you should have like a pretty solid understanding of what the religion is about. So let's start with, what is Godhoodism and what happens when I die? So this is what followers of Godhoodism believe. Our holy faith teaches that you are your own God, and you should do what you think is right by worshiping yourself. Of course, at the same time, you should respect others as fellow gods while doing no harm to them or infringing on their free will. Naturally, negativity toward others is unavoidable in this imperfect reality, but confining it to thoughts is okay. The number and severity of your negative acts is what indicates if you are evil and therefore not worthy of godhood. These acts are tallied among the infinite parallel universes in which you live out every scenario possible within a certain reason. Hold on a second. Before I continue any further, that's kind of weird. So, I don't think I've ever seen a religion like this. So, you're not just judged based on like what you do. You're judged based on what every alternate universe version of yourself does. And they go as far as to say that there are like an infinite number of alternate universe versions of you for which you are judged. And they also go as far as to say that there's like a version of you that has done like every possible thing that you could do. Like once you look at all the infinite versions of you, there's one that's like killed like 1,000 people, and there's one who's like a saint who has done like a whole bunch of like good stuff for the world. It seems like your actions then, in the grand scheme of the multiverse, would have a very minimal impact on your like scale of whether or not you were good or bad. At least I would think so, because you would be like one infinite of like of like your judgment, your like number of like bad deeds that you did. And it seems like unless you took every like bad choice possible, like unless you did as many bad things as you could, you still probably would be doing better than the universe where you did actually just do every bad thing possible. I feel like if you're judged based on like every alternate universe version of yourself, and you're only judged based on like a tally of your negative actions, like it's not like a balance of like all your good versus all your bad, it's just like your total number of negatives. You should have like an infinitely negative score. You should just have a score that's like, I don't, how does anyone get tallied to be good then? You know what I mean? I feel like it seems like everybody would be evil. But whatever, let's keep going. In essence, your goodness or lack thereof will be proved by how you handle perfect lives, horrid lives, and everything in between. The days of our lives are really a test for godhood. All your near infinite lives provide you with an amazingly immense collection of experiences and knowledge that will prepare you to become a god. All your memories are collected in a single spirit or soul that resides in the realm of pure thought that exists outside this physical reality and outside time as we know it. You may call such a realm heaven, and your unified parallel universal form may be called an angel. That's actually like an interesting concept. The idea that there's like a spirit or soul that represents you across like the entire multiverse. When talking about like superhero comics, and I'm probably going to bring up superhero comics a lot while I talk. I'm a big like superhero comic nerd. I just finished reading a Wonder Woman comic like right before I started doing this video. And if they're gonna bring up stuff like parallel universes and gods and ascension, a lot of that stuff is in comic books as well. But a lot of times when you talk about like comic books, you'll have one character who's had many different versions of themselves over time. And if you want to talk about like that one character in all of its versions as if they were all like the same person, like the same version, you say like you're referring to their composite version. For example, Superman in the comics is different from Superman in the movies, which is different from like Superman in his animated series. But if you talk about composite Superman, you're essentially saying I'm talking about like all Supermen as if they were like the same person. And this religion has it where everyone has their own like composite version. Like if you look at the entire infinite multiverse, there's like one version of you that exists outside of reality and outside of time that is your composite. I do think it's kind of interesting that Godhoodism is using terms like heaven and angel because they really don't have to. You know, it seems like they're trying to adapt these terms that we already use in other religions, but they're using them to mean very different things. You know what I mean? Like, they're talking about a realm that is beyond, like, our reality, beyond physical reality, and that is outside of time. You think they could have called that realm, like, the meta realm or the beyond, because it seems to be beyond everything. And in the same vein, why is it that our composites are called angels rather than just being called like composites or like true forms or something like that? So I'm curious to see how many other terms are going to be taken from other religions or other belief systems and then like used in a different context here. Let's see. Once you die in every reality, you will awaken in your new life where you will be reunited with everyone you ever knew who has now ascended to angelhood if they are judged righteous. Hold on. Once you die in every reality, would you ever? Like, would you ever die in every reality? Because I imagine if you have like an infinite number of parallel universes where like every possible scenario happens, then isn't there a parallel universe where I was just born that just came into being? And aren't there like an infinite number of parallel universes where I was like just born? And aren't there an infinite number where I just died like at the same time? So I feel like you end up in this weird situation where it's like, at what point would you even be dead in every possible universe? You know what I mean? So it seems really weird. But let's keep going. Also, they talk about the concept of everyone you ever knew who has now ascended to angelhood if they are judged righteous. I thought your angel form was just like your soul, like the collection of like all your memories from all different parallel universes into like one being. Is it a thing where that only happens if you're judged to be righteous? Maybe I already read that, and for some reason I just didn't put two and two together. But it's interesting that it's like they ascend to angelhood because they're righteous. If you don't ascend to angelhood, then, right? Like if you did live a bad life, then do you become like a demon? Like I'm curious where they're going to go with that. And if you do become a demon, is it that your composite becomes a demon? Because angels have just been defined as being like composite you. Or do your infinite souls individually all become demons? Because that would make me think that there would be a lot more demons than angels in general. But let's keep going. Since your spirit or angel self exists outside of time, then you and everyone you know do in fact already exist there. Okay, hold on. That might actually resolve my other thing that I complained about. So remember when I was like, when would you ever hit a time where like all of your different universe selves have all died? They're essentially saying that because heaven exists outside of time and material reality, it's not really about when they all die. Essentially, your angel form would already be there because it doesn't matter when things happen temporally within like the physical universe. But I think I was confused by like phrasing within this that specifically said, after all of your infinite selves died. Like, there's no reason to say that if you're then going to say, well, time's irrelevant. Technically, this is already happening inside of heaven, regardless of whether or not all your infinite selves have died. Okay, cool. It's good to know, I guess. But let's keep going. For all intents and purposes, the life we're leading now is a memory set in our living heavenly soul. At some point, you will ascend to a pre-God state that will refer to as an archangel status. I still don't know why they like are appropriating these terms. So an archangel. Oh, I don't even know what the difference between like an angel and an archangel is now, right? If an angel is just like your composite soul self of all your different like parallel universes, then with like you haven't actually differentiated between archangel and angel. All they say for archangel that is pre-God. Wouldn't everything that's not God but on the way to God be pre-God? So I don't understand what makes you an archangel. Maybe we're about to find out. There is another level of universes called multiverses, which are a collection of parallel universes parallel to other universe collections stemming from universes that began from alternate Big Bangs or by other variables. The laws of physics may or may not be different in those multiverses. What? So I guess what's confusing me here is that they talk about like infinite parallel universes existing. And I'm like, okay, that's a multiverse. Like already. Like you're already saying that there's like a multiverse made of infinite universes. And then there's another level of universes called multiverses, which are collections of parallel universes parallel to other collections of parallel universes. This is something that annoys me about DC Comics because they have a similar thing actually. They have an infinite multiverse, but then they have like sub multiverses inside of that greater infinite multiverse, and they call the greater infinite multiverse an omniverse. It seems like here they don't have that like omniverse term as far as I can tell. It looks like down there it says omniversal God, so maybe they are going to introduce the concept of an omniverse. There's no reason to make such weird like groupings, I guess, like to set them up as collections. I don't think there's any purpose to that. As soon as you say that there's like an infinite number of universes, that's your multiverse. And you can just say that all of them are a part of one multiverse. You don't need different multiverses that are in a collection with each other. It's like an odd and arbitrary cosmology to like set for yourself. But let's keep it going. Let's see. All your fellow gods and the gods of this universe, who we'll get to later, interesting, will take you the rest of the way to godhood. You will learn how to look inside yourself and create a physical reality and sentient beings, all of which you will be responsible for and who will someday join you as gods themselves. The only mystery is whether or not this collection of parallel universes we now directly reside in was created by the original God, the one who started everything and who always existed, or is this the creation of another God who was once a biological creature? There's even a scenario that our God or gods are still biological, and that this reality resides within a quantum computer in which we are sentient programs. What? So hold on. It's getting really weird, like really fast. So I kind of like the concept of them saying, well, because heaven exists out of like outside of the physical world and outside of our time, and that technically we're all already like angels or archangels or gods in that realm because it's like time disconnected from us, that the world that we live in right now, we could be living side by side with whoever created like this universe or whatever, because they're still biological within like the multiverse. They still have versions of themselves who haven't died. And it seems like I feel like that'd just be true, actually. Like based on the way that they've set everything up, if like every possible universe exists, there will always be a possible universe where you're not dead. And if that's the case, then I don't think there's ever going to be a time where you don't physically exist somewhere, but because of the whole like heaven is outside of time and space, so it like our time's irrelevant. It also makes it where we like coexist in that like spiritual world or whatever. So I think that sounds right. Like when they say maybe the God that created like this physical universe is just still like with us like biologically. It's like yeah, yeah. I mean that makes sense. If you're gonna say that's where universes come from, is like these godlike beings that exist in like heaven or whatever, and they just make universes. And since it's like separated from time, so you don't have a weird like chicken or egg scenario, then yeah, that's fine. Because the issue with like a chicken or egg scenario is just like time based. And as soon as you like remove time from the equation as a relevant factor, then yeah, you can have like an egg appear with no chicken within time, because if the chicken's outside of time, it still kind of works. It's it's odd. It's definitely odd. It also feels very like cyclical in a way, I guess, because outside of time, a being creates like the material like universe. Inside of the material universe, or I guess material multiverse, are all these different versions of that same being, but as like a biological entity. When all those beings die, which will never really happen, but because this space exists outside of time, I guess it could be possible maybe if like the whole multiverse died or something. The being that created that universe comes into being, but you can ignore the sequence of the physical world because it kind of exists like in its own space. And then that being then creates the physical world. It's like your composite comes from the souls of your like physical selves, but your physical selves come from the composite. But because you negate time in the argument, it doesn't matter like when which one occurred. Really weird, really weird. Let me know if you're following or if you're lost in the comment section below and on our Discord. Let's talk about this some more because that'd be interesting. And what's this quantum computer stuff? It went really like far off of where everything else was talking about like the parallel universes. They're now like, and it's also possible that this is all just like a simulation and we're in like the Matrix or whatever. Took like a hard turn from where we were before. I wonder if they're gonna jump into that program thing like again as we continue reading, or if that's gonna be like a thing that they just said for a moment and now we're not gonna refer to again. Let's see. Do angels exist and what are they? I mean, they kind of already told us that angels are like the composites of your souls from across the multiverse. But let's see, or I guess across the omniverse. As mentioned above, angels do indeed exist, and most are probably former humans and other biological beings. Really, would it make sense for God to just create a being only in heaven and then expect them to be anything but babies forever? What? What did it? So I don't understand what that means. I like they ask the question and I feel like it's rhetorical. Like I'm not supposed to think about it that hard. But I what does that mean? I gotta reread that question. Really, would it make sense for God to just create a being only in heaven and then expect them to be anything but babies forever? Can you not grow up in heaven? I don't understand. That's so odd. When an angel is brought into existence, they already have the extensive wealth of knowledge from their countless lives as biological entities in the physical realities. We are the angels, and we are the gods. If that wasn't the case, then we'd be nothing more than smart animals and slaves as well. Okay, weird. This seems like a weird retread. Like this part, it seems like if you didn't read the what is Godism and what happens when I die, then this, I guess, would be like new information. But if you did read it, this section doesn't really need to be here. Next up, it says, I'm confused. What came first, the chicken or the egg? So I think that has to do with what I was talking about earlier, with the weird like cycle or whatever. So let's see what they have to say about it. From your viewpoint, you were born here first, but in reality, you first came into existence as your first unified form in the highest dimensions, which would be an archangel or pre-god for most. I don't understand why they even have the term angel in their vocabulary, right? Like within their like special like glossary of terms. If you're just gonna say that your composite form is like an archangel, but you're also gonna say that your composite form is an angel, you've made the two terms synonymous. They're not. There's no difference between the two. So just either call them pre-gods or call them angels or call them archangels. We now have like three terms that mean exactly the same thing. Like there has been no differentiation between the three at all. But whatever. We might say this is due to existing outside of time, but in reality, time is the next dimension above. So the higher dimensions do experience time in their own unique way. Don't do that. Don't do that. Chill. Chill. So it's like when we're introduced to the concept of heaven in this religion, they straight up just say it's outside of time, so you don't have to worry about like time stuff. And then they're now like, well, no, 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 no. There is like a weird sequence of events where your composite does exist first. We are going to explicitly state that they exist first, even though we also said that your composite comes from the souls of your infinite selves having all died, which would imply that that would have to exist first. Like they're reintroducing the weird like chronology aspect of it, even though they earlier did a good job of saying, well, don't think about the order because we're just going to set it outside of time. They're like, no, it's set in time, but it's like weird time. They don't experience time the same way we experience time. Don't do that, because now I just feel like I have more questions. I had less questions with the intro. The more they try to explain the intro, the weirder it gets. Okay. After all, even angels and gods need a progression of events or thoughts. A god existing in the macroverse as an omniverse. So, yep, here's where they're introducing the omniverse stuff. What is this, DC? This is DC cosmology? A god existing in the macroverse as an omniverse creates what would be called time within his or her infinite mind. A god existing in the macroverse as an omniverse. What does that mean? Does that mean that the god is inside the macroverse but is an omniverse? Or that the macroverse is an omniverse? Like, I don't know how it's using those words. Creates time within their mind. Your first true moment of existence and your first birth into the macroverse was probably as a god. What? What? So earlier, like in the same paragraph, they say that you would have first been a pre-god. Like they're like, you came into existence as a pre-god. Now they're saying your first true moment of existence and your first birth into the macroverse was as a full god. So what's the order? What's the, like, now the order's getting weird. So are you a god first, and then you're an angel, and then you're like a physical being? Like now it's not even like a chicken or egg. Now there's like multiple parts to it. Why do you, does it matter what's first? I feel like they're making it more complicated. We were not born randomly due to people having sex on earth. God created each of us individually in a higher dimension as an archangel. We awaken as an instant, infinitely intelligent, non-corporeal super being with the knowledge and experiences of our angelic lives, which are in turn a collection of all of our memories of our lives within each multiverse that's composed of near infinite parallel universes. Okay? So I guess they are saying that you start off as a god. They're saying you start as a god, but you're a god who was a pre-god as like an archangel, which was the souls of all your physical selves or whatever. That's okay. So they essentially say the way that you start is actually more of an end point, but an end point that exists because of the fact that all those other things also happened, but because you experience time differently rather than ignoring time altogether, even though you're at your end point, those other things still happened. So going back to the whole comparison between this religion's cosmology and DC Comics, DC Comics recently had this thing called Dark Knight's Death Metal, where at the end they tried to say that like everything happened. So they had multiple continuity changes where certain events were ignored within their continuity. But now with Dark Knight's Death Metal, they're like, well, no, like instead of saying that certain like events didn't happen, we're just gonna say that they all happened and this is where we are now, kind of thing. And I feel like this is doing the same thing in a way, where more or less it's like, so we're starting here. Like this is where your like story really began. And all those other events, they did happen. Everything happened, right? But this is where we're here. This is where we are right now, and this is where we're quote unquote starting. Because I guess the equivalent with DC would be post Dark Knight's Death Metal. They did Infinite Frontier, where it's like this is the beginning of the Infinite Frontier, where everything happened, but this is where we're beginning. This is where the story starts, kind of thing, for readers to hop in. So our Infinite Frontier is us starting as gods, but don't worry, everything happened. You were also an angel, and you were also an infinite number of beings within like the physical whatever. Okay, let's keep it going. It's difficult to explain how, on one hand, you ascend from your lower form, but on the other, you already exist in that form. It's all a matter of perspective, which is difficult with our limited three-dimensional brains. So, we are born as pre-God archangels and know God as our father/mother from day one. Stop! Stop! I thought you just said that we start as God. I thought they said you start as a God, but your angel stuff happens, and your like physical existence stuff happened, and now you immediately go back and you're like, well, no, you start off as your pre-God, but whatever. We get to decide if we want to ascend to godhood or remain a child archangel serving God. Okay, so those are the choices. You can be like your composite soul self, not make universes, and you can help like another composite soul self who just has like their own verse that they're like over, or you can make your own verse. Why would you not want to make your own verse? I guess if someone already made a verse that's pretty cool, You'd be like, oh, well, no, I'll just help them out with that. They already got it rolling. I don't want to have all that responsibility. Let's see. We may also choose to become a free spirit, known as a traveler, or also choose to be blinked back out of existence. Who wants that one? Who wants to? What are the consequences of that one? For one, if you were a traveler or whatever, what would you do? They haven't really explained where you would travel or where you'd be able to go, because they describe it as being like you're in like heaven, which is outside of the material realm and outside of time. If you're a traveler, would you explore heaven, or would you be able to explore the multiverse or the omniverse or whatever? Or would you just be like stuck in heaven, just kind of doing whatever you want, just running around? And if you were to be blinked out of existence, does that blink out your angel form, which would then blink out like your souls of all your like physical existences in those universes? Like, do you get scrubbed out of the like infinite multiverse as well if you get blinked out of existence? It's interesting that you can choose to use a Dragon Ball term, hakai yourself, to like destroy yourself from existence or whatever. Really odd. Those who are evil never actually gain consciousness in archangel form. At the moment he creates an archangel, he sees its evil by all they've done in their near infinite biological lives within the blink of an eye. He eradicates the soul from existence again. Such beings have no idea they've been judged guilty of being evil. Most, however, gain angel form briefly, but are quickly given the option of being eradicated from existence or leaving the heavenly realm to take demonic form in the fourth dimension, so inside of time. So in Godhoodism, time is hell? What? What's going on? So hold on a second. They straight up said like, yeah, because I'm somewhat conflicted now. I'm trying to like understand what they're saying. They said for a moment that like if you're evil, you never become. Well, no, they said you never gain consciousness as an archangel, which to me implies that like you form as an archangel, which is a composite of all your multiverse spirits, but you're knocked out. And then the God that created you sees the like all the infinite lives you experience in a blink of an eye, because remember they experience time differently or whatever, and then they hakai you. They destroy you at that moment, which to me sounds wild. But they're the ones who judge you based on the negative tallies that we mentioned earlier, and then they bzz you. I'm curious how many tallies you need for you to be like hakai'd. But then right after they say that, like right after they say that you just get hakai'd from existence, they then go, well, actually, you're given a choice. You're not just hakai'd from existence. And the choice is whether or not you want to be hakai'd or whether or not you want to become a time demon. Who picks to be hakai'd? Who, who on earth, like, who would want to just be like, yeah, wipe me. Wait, take that eraser. Mm-mm. Not today. No, I don't want to live here. Okay, so let's keep going. What do the time demons do? Taking such a form only delays their inevitable eradication from existence. Such individuals are evil in every multiverse they ascend in. Whoa. What? Such individuals are evil in every multiverse they ascend to angelhood in? Hold up. So, hold on. Now I think I understand why they separated the like collections of universes into different multiverses. So they're saying that each of these multiverse collections are like collections of infinite universes. You got like an infinite group of universes over here, an infinite group of universes over here, and an infinite group of universes over here. And they're saying that each and every one of those could have like the same person. Like you could have Bob in multiverse A, Bob in multiverse B, and Bob in multiverse C. And that all of them can have composites in heaven. So all of them end up like becoming angels in heaven. So you have like 3 angel Bobs, but they all represent like Bob from each respective multiverse or whatever. And then they're saying that like demons are evil in every multiverse they ascend to angelhood in. Meaning that if Bob was a demon in multiverse A, B, and C, all of those would like push him up to be like demon. Like every Bob is a demon regardless of what multiverse they ascend from. That sounds really weird, actually. Like that's odd. That's incredibly odd, actually. It makes me think that everybody would be a demon because they don't have this thing. They haven't established the concept that like your good deeds count against your bad deeds. Like they haven't said that like the good is subtracted from the bad to figure out your tally. It's just a raw tally. And I'm like, but you're just gonna have universes where you always do bad stuff because there must be a universe for like every possibility or whatever, and an infinite number of each of those. So I don't know. It just sounds like your evil tally would just be infinite, so everyone would be bad. Well, let's keep it going, I guess. Those who are good in some and evil in others have the chance to redeem themselves as angels. Well, that should be everyone. That should be like, if you're saying there's an infinite, like, multiverse or whatever, and that every possible action happens in every single one of these, like, universes, then that should mean that there's a universe where you only ever do good things, an infinite number of those, and a universe where you only ever do bad things, an infinite number of those, and a universe where you do a mix of good and bad, an infinite number of those. So it sounds like you should, like, everyone should just get the chance to redeem themselves then. It shouldn't even be possible to be evil in, like, every single universe or whatever. That's crazy. Let's see. This is sort of where the legend of purgatory came from, although it's not a hellish scenario. They are with all the good angels or spirits. From our archangel birth, most of us will ascend to godhood status and create our own universes within the great macroversal expanse. We will in essence be an omniverse. Wait, we will in essence be an omniverse, or at least our heart is the omniverse. Although we are pure thought with infinite potential, so our minds can expand outward for all eternity. So essentially they're saying that everyone they're saying most are born as archangels and become gods, and then create universes within their own hearts, within the macroversal expanse. And all those universes essentially form an omniverse, like a collection of multiverses or whatever, and that's like the heart of a god. So within like their faith or their religion, it sounds like if you could somehow like destroy the heart of a god, it would be like the equivalent of destroying like an entire omniverse. That's pretty wild. Like that sounds like a pretty crazy idea. How far have I got? It's only been 38 minutes. We got a good bit to go, so let's keep reading. So what is the afterlife and the structure of the universe? Okay, so this is going to be like a lot of cosmology stuff. The basic structure of the universe and the afterlife is that we as biological beings exist in this four-dimensional universe, which is parallel to near infinite other universes that all stemmed from the Big Bang. Okay, so for them, the Big Bang created like an infinite multiverse. These exist within a five-dimensional hyperspace where all the mathematical probabilities within a certain reason are played out. Excuse me. Together, all the parallel universes form a six-dimensional multiverse. There are countless other multiverses, with each stemming from other Big Bangs or other scenarios that created a new universe. We believe that not only do you exist multiple times in the parallel universes of the multiverse, but within those other multiverses as well. Okay, and they referenced that earlier, where they were talking about how some of these multiverses that were created from other Big Bangs or other universe starters essentially could have like other laws of physics and stuff like that. Like they may not follow the same laws that we do. And that's like an interesting thought. But let's keep going. Let's keep rolling. Because I'm thinking about stuff that we've kind of already covered. But it made me remember stuff that we already covered. Let's see. I lost my place. Okay, when you die in all the universes of a multiverse, or ascend out of them. Wait, how do you ascend? Because they haven't mentioned that before, actually. Like, they've only ever said you die in all the universes, and then your soul composites like an angel or an archangel or a pre-god or whatever. Now they're saying it's possible for you to just ascend straight out. Let's see, or ascend out of them. You become a 5-dimensional angel who exists in 6-dimensional space, which is a level of heaven. So it's interesting that they're now like classifying angels as 5th dimensional. They kind of were before when they said that they're like beyond time, if time is the 4th dimension or whatever. Relating it back to DC Comics, like I said, I'm going to relate it back to comics a lot. The 5th dimension is where Mr. Mxyzptlk and Batmite are from, which are 5th dimensional imps. They also say that the 5th dimension is like the realm of imagination. It's also where like genies come from and stuff like that. So this is like they're considered reality manipulators who can just straight up like destroy universes if they want to and like manipulate our reality. So from Godhoodism, like from that perspective, they would see characters like Mr. Mixie and Batmite as being gods, which I guess isn't really that too far off from what they actually are. So fascinating, I suppose. So you then live the life of a multiversal angel parallel to your countless other angel lives. Oh, countless other angel lives. They're like, so they're saying they're like an infinite number of these like different other multiverses. And from each of those infinite multiverses, there's like another angel form of you. So there's like an infinite number of angel yous that exist. What it is that you do as an angel will be discussed at a later time, but at some point you're ready to ascend onward. When all your angel selves ascend, you become a 7-dimensional archangel or pre-god in the 8th dimension. Okay, so that now there actually is a difference between an angel and an archangel. So an angel is just like your composite from like all the versions of you in one multiverse dying. Like it's the soul of all of them with the memories of all of them. And then when every single one of your like infinite angel cells ascend, and they really haven't described how that goes, you then become an archangel where now you're in like the pre-god status in the 8th dimension. From there, you can move on to become an independent god to enjoy the ultimate freedom as nature intended. And they said, click here to see a detailed structural chart of the universe in the afterlife. I kind of want to see that. Wait, why is it like this? I thought it was going to be like a picture. So it's just like a breakdown. Cool. If you guys want me to do a reaction to this, let me know. We can do that at a future time. I'm going to keep exploring just this one page because we've already been looking at this like a lot. So I don't want to lose the plot and get caught up in their like cosmology chart because I imagine I could probably talk about that like all day. Let's see. The afterlife is the true beginning of your life and not the end. Okay, so they're like, your angel stuff is really the start of your time. You first come into existence as a being of pure thought, aka an archangel. That's so weird. They keep using archangel in so many different terms because they said that like your archangel form doesn't come about until your angel form ascends. Excuse me, but not just one angel form ascends. When your countless angel forms ascend is when you become an archangel. And now they're like, well, the archangel part is actually the beginning, and all that other stuff happened, but this is actually when like things start. They keep like moving the starting point of like when things begin. But whatever. Let's see. It's the most amazing birth ever because you become instantly aware of the near infinite memories of your countless lives as a biological being and an angelic being as well. The knowledge you attain in your numerous angelic lives makes aware that you're in fact in the afterlife of heaven, so nobody has to explain where you are. There's no shock in your situation. In fact, you feel completely loved and at peace as you come into existence simultaneous with all you ever knew within the warm light of the omniversal God, which I don't think they've explained. Well, I guess they have explained who the omniversal God is. The omniversal God would just be really any God because they described it as like the heart of a God is an omniverse. So whatever God made you, you would feel the warmth of the light of that God. Although there's a slim chance it could be the one original God who started everything. They have this like concept that there's like one guy who started the physical like universe, but their whole like outside of time thing that they do makes it seem like that doesn't have to be the case. Once you ignore chronology, like once you like make that a part of your story, that like, oh, they're just beyond time and what happens in like order in our world means nothing to them, then I'm not sure if you need like a first God. Like it kind of loses meaning because within their realm, the concept of first, second, third, fourth is like a non-factor, it seems, the way that they like describe it. Let's see. Once born into the great gathering of archangels God, what? And also other archangels who are servants of God, guide you through your final journey to godhood. At some point, you make the choice to make the final ascension to God. You're released out of God's mind, aka the omniverse. So the omniverse is God's heart, but it's also God's mind, I guess. But whatever. Into the great infinite pure thought expanse of the macroverse, aka the original God. What? So when you become a God, you exit the God that made you and enter the original God. There you no longer feel any confinement and expand your pure thought consciousness outward infinitely, forming an omniverse or perhaps some new creation within yourself. So this is where you're forming your mind and heart omniverse inside of original God. Let's see. You then go about the grand task of forming your own universes and sentient beings. Sentient beings that are part of your mind, whose lives you can experience. Interesting. Saying that you can experience their lives kind of makes me think of the idea of like, it's not just that he creates a whole bunch of beings that exist, but that he can then like pilot them in a way. Like it's like if you had a simulation that had a bunch of like computer controlled entities running around, but then you could at any time be like, well, I want to experience him and like control him like a player character. I don't know if that's where they're coming from or not. Oops, I moved my mouse. You can also commune with the near infinite other gods within macro space as well. You can send your consciousness anywhere at will. Eventually, you will meet the original God who always existed because you're a part of him as well. Okay? Interesting, I guess. So why Godhoodism? So they're trying to like pitch to you like why you should pick this religion. Why not? It's the first thing they say. Should we remain kids forever and have one of many mindless existences of promised paradise perfection that would undoubtedly get boring after a time? Or should we continue to grow as sentient beings? Our thoughts of consciousness and subconsciousness know no bounds. And if we have free will, then we should be able to follow our dreams into infinity and beyond. Hey, quoting my boy Buzz Lightyear. In this world, our parents strive to see us grow up and be successful adults like them. So why would the God who created us not want the same equivalent? For us to grow out of our limited existence and be a God like him. To continue to grow like him, through the observation and feeling of his children's infinite lives, through the friendship of fellow gods as well. An interesting pitch, I guess. I don't know if that means anything, like what's being said. Yeah, like it's interesting because the pitch is more or less saying, "What, you don't want to be a god?" They're like, "Fine, if you don't want to be a god, that's cool. You can do what you want. But if you want to be a god, why wouldn't you? Why don't you pick our religion? You know, our religion is about you being a god. So if you want to be a god, you should pick our religion. That's all I'm saying." Let's see. So shouldn't we worship God? Is the next question. So they say our theory is that he's gone to a lot of trouble to hide himself, and he surely didn't create all these fairy tale religions with their constricting and sometimes silly rules. So he obviously doesn't have a God complex, which is rather ironic, don't you think? To require worship is to have a big ego and be full of yourselves. they got a hard shots fired going on in this paragraph. Okay, a negative quality in any being indeed. Some might even say a quality of evil. ooh, hard shots fired. Okay. If God created a religion, we'd like to think he wouldn't ask people to worship him and bow down to him like common ego-filled royalty. Dang. Although royals did nothing to earn their status. This is something they would have in common with the one original God. Gosh. Still, we don't know if the original God might have ever chosen to live out life as a human in infinite scenarios and go through the trials of life like us, thereby earning his way to a godhood that he was born into. That's really interesting. That whole paragraph is shade, is hard shade. They say stuff like, we don't even know if he repped the physical realm, my boy. Like, we don't even know if he actually, like, went through the infinite lives to earn his spot. He's like, right now we're grinding. We're going in for that ascension. He may have gotten his ascension out of pocket. He may have gotten it for free. They hit him with a hard poser card. So weird. So weird conceptually. This next thing also tickles me. So what if I'm evil? Okay. So we go on the assumption that only reasonably decent people become gods, and that the Almighty of all the universes is the same. So it's a fair bet that if you're evil and you die, then you're really dead. You simply don't exist ever again. We don't believe in hell because there's no crime that fits such a punishment. The existence of such a place implies a sadistic nature, which would be an evil trait for a god. The removal of your evil waste of space, evil waste of space from our reality is justice and punishment enough. You being hide from existence is all we need. You just, poof, you're just not here anymore, son. In all fairness, however, even if you're evil in this reality, you might still end up being good in the majority of parallel universes. I don't think so the way that you describe it, because they describe it as all possible. So I don't know. Although we believe that those who commit horrific acts in one reality are most likely evil in the majority. Damn. This is due to the power of your spirit overriding the other two factors that govern your life, environment and genetics. If your spirit is good, you simply can't commit a horrific act of evil. What? I feel like they're trying to have their cake and eat it too with a lot of these statements. So they'll say something like, if you're evil in one universe, then you might not be evil in like the other universes. But then they'll also say stuff like, well, if you do evil ever, you probably just have like a bad spirit. If you have a bad spirit, then no matter what universe you're in, you're probably just doing evil shit anyways. Okay, so that's weird. What happens to evil people when they die? Have we not stated this? Have we not gone over it? Let's keep going. As we stated, a good God doesn't dole out eternal punishments, as that would be sadistic and would serve no purpose. Not to mention having people tortured in your mind forever is just sick. There simply isn't a crime that fits an eternal punishment. It's merely a scare tactic used by man-made religions to keep you in line. Upon all their near infinite deaths, an evil person awakens and will most likely see their soulmate, who almost always tends to be evil as well, due to their spirits being created from common thought threads. Both will immediately realize that they are evil as they relive all their near infinite opportunities they were given to be good, but chose the easy, childish path of evil. At that point, God will introduce himself and tell them that they're no longer welcome to exist. Damn. I find it interesting, the concept that, like, so you've died in an infinite number of universes, and then your composite self wakes up somewhere, and then you see, like, your composite other half, your soulmate. And it's like, wow. So, like, you and I were always meant to be together. Like, I just saw, like, all my infinite realities, and, like, we were meant for each other. And then your soulmate goes, yeah, but we're, like, evil as fuck. We were meant to be with each other, but we're, like, bad guys, I guess. To be honest, wouldn't you both be like, cool, I'm glad you're also back? Like, I just feel like you would, like, unite at that point. Like, let's do bad guy shit. And then God shows up and goes, yeah, nah. Okay, like, it's just goodbye. Not today. Let's see. Well, let's keep it going. Where we at? Where we at in this? They will almost always agree with him. Okay, that seems interesting. You just met your perfect composite soulmate. You're like, wow, I finally get to meet my true soulmate in my true form. We just met and we got to talk. God's like, okay, well, you guys got to get Hakkai'd. And they both go, you know what? He's right. I guess neither of us deserved it. I'm glad I met you for like 5 seconds and we never did anything else. I'll talk to you later. Hasta luego. I like how it says, like, they almost always agree with him. What happens when they don't? Is that like a fight? Do they scrap? Do we have, like, God scraps out here? Be pretty interesting. Love to see them box. You and your infinite soulmate versus God. Who will win? Let's see. They almost always agree with him, and he will, in essence, delete their spirits painlessly from his mind, and they will cease to exist as they did before he ever created their souls in the first place. Those who protest are most likely beyond evil, and he will delete them swiftly in a simulated, painful flash of anger. So they get, like, smited. Also, the fuck? So they're saying that the ones who protest, there's, like, evil, and then there's beyond evil, like, dun, 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 dun. And it doesn't sound like it's a scrap. It sounds like in the case where you agree, where you go, you know what, I'm evil. Hit that delete button, fam. Guy just hits delete. If you protest, God hits delete really hard. It's not like it's a different punishment. He just goes like, yeah. And they say that you feel pain. He has 2 keys. He has painful delete and he has no pain delete. And he more or less is like, which do you, pain delete or no pain delete? Okay, let's hit it up. Is God evil? No. We assume a God wouldn't be evil simply because being evil is too easy and an extremely childish behavior, even when taken to the highest extremes. Well, hold on a second. You remember the whole poser thing they did earlier? Where they were talking about the concept of, like, oh, well, you know, God may not have had, like, infinite, like, mortal forms and, like, earned his place to godhood and, like, ascended. If that's the case, right? Like, if God, like, if you, like, treat him in a poser status like that, where, like, ooh, he didn't go through everything we did, then what would keep him from, like, being evil or whatever? Because their religion has, like, checks and balances or whatever to try and determine that if you're evil or beyond evil, that you get, like, deleted. But if there's, like, a one God who started it all, which is what they believe, then I don't think he has any checks or balances. Like, he could just be bad, and I don't know why they think he wouldn't be bad. They're like, no, we don't think God's evil because being evil is easy. It's like, wouldn't that make it more likely that he might just be bad? I don't know. Weird. Weird. A god would be beneath such behavior. Wait, wouldn't he be above? Wouldn't he be above evil? You like normally evil stuff is beneath you. You'd be like, evil is beneath me. You wouldn't say God's beneath evil. That puts him in the beyond evil category from before. Weirdly phrased. A god would be beneath such behavior, although a god can dole out a temporary punishment toward an evil one that might appear to be an evil act from a mortal's perspective. What do you mean a temporary punishment? We were just talking about God literally hakaiing people out of existence. Like, that was like what the last paragraph was about. If the original God isn't evil, then he would not allow any others to be evil. Is that not just straight up saying that original God's evil? I don't understand. Because it's like, so if we all agree that they're like evil people, and they're like, yeah, yeah, It's like, okay, cool. And then you're like, well, if original God like isn't evil, he wouldn't allow evil people to exist. And it's like, but he does. They just do exist. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I don't know. Also, it's interesting the way that they describe, like, when you become a composite as an evil person. Because they're like, you get erased from existence as if you never existed. Wouldn't that eventually mean that you would hit a point where it's like, well, there are just no evil people? Like, ever. And there never were evil people. Like, every time an evil person gets erased, like, whenever their composite gets erased, I feel like that would just make the multiverse eventually good. If you erase, like, literally every evil person from ever having existed ever in any multiverse within the omniverse or whatever, then there just would have never been any evil in the first place. Weird. Weird indeed. Let's see. Although everything came from him, so there must be some evil or darkness within him, although such traits may simply stem from imperfection itself, which must exist in order to explore all scenarios of the parallel universes. Since God is perfection, therefore he must be mostly good in nature. Why is perfection mostly good? So it's just like all good. Let's see. What happens to future human civilizations comprised of immortals? Why is this one not a heading? This looks like a heading because like all the other ones are like headings, but this one's just a part of the is God evil thing. Let's see. So what happens if a society advances and evolves technologically to create immortal humans who eventually explore everything, working their way up into the dimensions of pure thought? Oh wait, what? You will exist in. The fact is, you will find out, since it's a scenario everyone will experience in other parallel universes. That's a cop-out answer. You're like, well, don't worry. You exist in infinite universe. At least in one of those, you did that. You're doing that. You're doing that right now. You're immortal in like an infinite number of universes, exploring higher dimensions or whatever. You go, dude. Congrats, you did it. You already know the answer. Once you become a composite, you already know the answer. Let's see, this is a direct ascension to godhood status, and the most satisfying one a society can attain. So they're like, that should be like the true goal, is to try and become immortal and then ascend through the dimensions yourself. The attainment of godhood is the ultimate completion to the human story. The reason every member of society has toiled for thousands of years as a seemingly insignificant cog in the great machine of life. But of course, on the other hand, they were also gaining life experience for their own godhood they would have seen upon death in that reality. Excuse me. Well, hold on, that sounds really weird. So they're saying, like, so there are versions of you who therefore are not a part of the composite. Any version of you that's like immortal and then just ascends upward, like through all the dimensions or whatever, and becomes a god, those guys are not like infinite composites. They're just immortals who have lived for a long time. Do they have like equivalent life experience to all the like like other versions of them, couldn't evil people become immortal and then like ascend through like all the dimensions? Like, shouldn't there be evil gods through the existence of these like hyper advanced immortals or whatever? I feel like that is like a like weird loophole, because it seemed like the way that they were moderating evil is that as soon as your composite shows up and it's evil, you get delete keyed. But for those, it would be like no one let you in. Like no one like had you appear to delete key you. It's like, oh no, I let myself in. I'm like so advanced that I can just like make myself an angel. I feel like if like, and there would have to be evil immortals because of their whole like there's a universe for every possibility. So there would have to be like evil immortals who are capable of traversing to like higher dimensions, who would then want to try and like take over heaven or whatever, the higher dimensional space that they exist within. I wonder if they'll talk about that, like as we continue going through. Will that come up at any point? Let's see. Oh, also, isn't it a waste, I guess, to go the immortal route? Because they're almost saying that. Like, it sounds like if you go the immortal route, you have to work like years and years and years and years to push yourself up through like all these dimensions. But if you die, it sounds like you just die and then you become a composite and then you just go through all the steps or whatever. Also, yeah, the concept of the immortals is really weird because as soon as you introduce the concept that like immortal beings exist within your cosmology, they are just distinctly different from everybody else. Immortals wouldn't have composites, which would mean they'd never be like archangels or like pre-gods or whatever. And you can't have the loop with them, I don't think. I guess you can have the loop because they still create a universe where then, well, I guess an omniverse in their heart and mind, where they could also exist within that omniverse and become immortal and ascend up. And you do the same kind of loop thing. It's really weird. There should be like an infinite number of immortal versions of you who would then be doing the ascension process the long way. Let's see, those who directly ascend into higher dimensions of pure thought in the future only ascend to godhood once they merge with their spirit or souls in those realms. Oh, what? So hold on. So if immortal Bob enters like a higher dimension and he's like, okay, I want to be like a god now, they'd be like, hey, fuse with your composite. And then he has to go like, ooh, ooh. Because if he did fuse with his composite, they could be like, evil, delete key, and they could like duke him. So it doesn't matter how many dimensions you ascend, you still do have to composite into your angel. And then your angels have to composite into your archangel. And then your archangel has to go through training. And then your archangel has to be released from confinement into the original God so that an omniverse can form within your mind and heart, and then you become a god. The steps, so many steps. Oddly enough, an individual could be independent of his or her soul, now a god, and carry out a conversation with them. So an individual could be independent of their soul as a god and then talk to their soul? How? If everything's like if you become a god as a composite, then how could you then talk to your own soul if everybody is like a composite of all their other forms? My mind's like, that doesn't make any sense. Like that part actually does kind of go against the other things that were mentioned. Do aliens exist and do they become gods? Yes. God wouldn't limit himself to sentient life on one planet, nor would he limit himself to one species. But he could. Like, it's just like a choice at that point, if you can do anything. Depending on the parallel universe you exist in, there might be virtually no other alien life or an overabundance. Any decent sentient being can become a god, and in turn, create any type of sentient being he so chooses. Once in a non-physical pure thought form, such things don't really matter just as the bonds of racial discrimination will fade away as well. Let's see. Do I have a soulmate? Yes. God intertwines most souls within a... Hold on a second. Before we jump to the soulmate thing. So they just talked about the concept of like, well, once you become like a pure thought entity, like racism becomes like a non-factor. I guess. Like, because the way that they describe it is that like, you only go farther if you're good anyways, right? And racism is not good. Like, I imagine you might get delete keyed if your tally says, oh, like, overall, you're just racist. So, yeah, I guess as a pure thought being, I guess race doesn't matter because you're not evil anymore. Because you would have, like, there's no way that you weren't evil in, like, any of your different existences. But, like, your composite is deemed not evil enough to get erased. So I imagine you're not racist. Like, sure, that's fine. It's weird to think about. Let's see, do I have a soulmate? Yes. God intertwines most souls with another upon their creation in the realm of pure thought. So how would you know that? And like, why would that be the case? Although upon creation, a rare few aren't meant to have one, for they are truly independent gods from day one. What? So they keep, like, a few paragraphs ago, and now in this paragraph, they're bringing up the concept of, like, independent gods, or, like, beings that exist on their own, I guess, from the jump. I don't really know what that means. Like, I don't fully understand what that means. When one first awakens in their soul, upon all their infinite deaths, oh, they're trying to do a PC scan. Run later, fam. Don't hit me up with that PC scan. Not right now. Okay. Back to the article. Let's see. When one first awakens in their soul upon all their infinite deaths, the first person they see is their soulmate. Okay, so that's true whether or not you're good or evil. Rather than having a Jesus son who is truly a part of your thoughts, it would be more likely that your soulmate would fill that role. Fill the role of Jesus? What? The majority does indeed have a soulmate, but the parallel universes you were with them are very small. Wouldn't there be like an infinite number of parallel universes where you were with them? Many gods have chosen to join with their mate and become a duo god that has no gender. That's also interesting that the god is genderless rather than like a hermaphrodite, like a combination of genders. Though technically your soulmate could be of the same gender as you, to which then also why do you lose gender? It's really weird that you lose gender on the merge instead of just having one gender or a combined gender. A good number exists side by side with their soulmate, but create and rule their own independent universes. Why not share a universe or two? No matter what the combo, you usually separate when traveling in human form or talking to past friends or kids who'd rather not talk to an odd daddy mom or mommy dad. What? So you can like go back and like talk to your kids and you can take a human form? They haven't mentioned that before. Like the concept of being like, and now human form. I mean, they mentioned that you can experience the lives of the people in the universes that you make. So maybe that's what they're talking about. So it's not that you go back to the universes that you were from. It's that you create new universes and you take on your human form. But it's interesting that you separate. Like, why can't you like manifest yourself within your own universe as like the fusion of you and your soulmate? You could technically create a world where everybody's kind of like that, where they're like fused with their soulmate. But whatever. So this says, I have a big ego, or I like riddles that could mean anything. So can I create a religion for my people? Or I like riddles that can mean anything. That almost feels like a jab at what it is, like at what Godhoodism is already. It's like a riddle that can mean anything. You sure can, but make it obvious you wrote its holy book by making it the most amazing thing anyone's ever read. I mean, after all, you have the near infinite knowledge of so many parallel universes, So it'd be sad to write the crazy contradictory Bible-like fables, right? Also, try not to get all cryptic with riddles and future predictions. Writing in a Bible-like fashion doesn't make you look smart. It just bores and frustrates people. Godhoodism has a lot of like straight up jabs at like Christian God conceptually, as well as like how like the Bible's formed and stuff. Um, Hard jabs, calling out the Bible specifically. Just write what you mean and make it clear to understand for your children. We also recommend not making it cut and dry at the end. Give your people a choice, and don't threaten them with hellfire and stuff. I mean, Godhoodism has the threat of angry delete key and normal delete key. In addition, try writing it yourself and leave it in the past, a million years before civilization exists, so as to give more proof it's from you rather than a recent man-made creation. Is there supposed to be a period here? Because then it says still capitalized, and it made me feel like I was losing my place. Still, we strongly suggest against creating a religion unless it's like ours with very few rules. As future gods, you want your people to have free will without fear of reprisal. You want to see what they will do on their own and experience all they can in the universe. You want to see if they're truly good or evil by seeing what they do in every scenario in every universe. Religion stifles that and creates conflict and violence. Enough man-made ones will exist for all that, so why dip your hand into the evil? They're like, you shouldn't make a religion if you truly want people to do the right thing because they want to do the right thing, kind of thing. Interesting argument. Let's see. Can I just not hide and be with my people? And then they said, please don't. Interesting. It takes away from your mystery and splendor that is you, along with ruining the whole, I wonder what they will do. Oh, sorry, I wonder what they'll do on their own thing. Okay. I mean, but what if you just don't want to do that? Like, I think it's fair to be like, well, why not just like be among them? And then they're like, no, 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 that's not the point. You want to see what they'll do on their own. It's like, but do you? You mentioned earlier that when you're able to create your own omniverse, that you could also just create like whatever you want to make. Like at that point, it's your choice. If it's your choice, then why not just do whatever? They're not saying you can't do it, but they're saying like, please don't do it, which is interesting. They said just wait until they ascend to godhood, or pick a tiny number of people you really like just show up to like the homies. Hey, yo, we playing Brawlhalla tonight. You know you gotta drop me in the queue. Who brought the spicy nacho Doritos? And they're like, it's our boy God. God rolled in for Brawlhalla tonight. Although exploring such a scenario in some parallel universes might be interesting. I like how they're like, well, hold on. They're like, maybe if you don't do it like in the whole omniverse you create, but like in universe be like maybe every other universe show up. You know, that might be cool. Mix it up, like get it spicy. You also have the option of taking human form and having friends and doing whatever else you want. Cool. They're also like, but you could be a human, but like being a human's chill. They're like, you could do that. Hit that up. Let's see. Can I create magical realities where supernatural beings really exist? Knock yourself out. Create magic fairies, genies, vampires, werewolves, Santa Claus, and leprechauns as well while you're at it. Every universe could use more magic. And then they have a list of supernatural beings. If you want me to react to that, feel free to hit up your boy. That could also be interesting. Let's see. So won't being God get boring eventually? Yes, it's possible that you might get tired of making universes, new beings, watching it like reality TV, and then greeting the new gods after several trillions of years. But there is a society of gods for you to interact with. You're free to take any form and do anything you want within your own universes, and even other gods' universes with their permission. I like the with their permission thing. They have built into their religion, no griefing. No, you can't come and grief my omniverse. You need a friend code if you want to enter my omniverse. That's funny. Okay. You can even return to your universe of origin. No! Continuity's broken. They broke continuity. You can't do that. No, don't say that. You're about to tell me that no one, like if you believe in your religion, you're about to tell me that no one who ascended up and became like a god or whatever came back here and hung out with the homies. That would be big news. That would be big, big news. Let's see. Where you were human and explore the entire universe at any time period you wish. What? No, no, that's worse. No, how do you make it worse? It's not just that you can come back, right? You can come back and time travel. No, no, they can do anything then. Maybe it's you can return to your home universe, but only if you get permission. The anti grief. Maybe that's it. Maybe the anti griefing rules on our reality prevent people from coming back. Or if you come back, you have to sign the terms and agreements saying that you don't fuck up the time stream. We'll see. That's so weird. Okay, keep going. The sky's the limit when you're a free god. It's certainly a hell of a lot better than floating around a god in some heaven, doing nothing for eternity, or being nothing more than a sentient animal child on an earthly paradise. They shoot fires a lot to like Christianity. Shoot fires. They shoot fire. They're taking shots at Christianity a lot within this. Let's see. Why does God allow bad things to happen? I think that goes back to the like message that they keep pushing with Godhoodism, which is the idea that it's about letting people make their own choices and do what they like want to do, kind of thing. Also, if you're erasing evil people from existence, eventually I think it would be a situation where bad things just didn't happen. But let's see. The boredom factor, along with testing us to see if we're good or evil, is the true reason why the universe isn't perfect and God allows atrocities to happen. Although, as God, He could see all our infinite futures instantly and know from day one if we were good or evil and then extinguish us instantly. On that count, it's about affecting every scenario on the good people and letting the evil people know that they were evil. God apparently wants to see every scenario, but we don't know for sure if He ever does intervene in extreme cases. Since we feel gods are good, then God should intervene to ensure to have our universe. Well, hold up. Then God should intervene to ensure we don't experience more than we can bear. Okay, sorry, I accidentally had skipped a line. Naturally, the experiences facilitating the training of gods is a convenient perk for Him and brings Him even closer to you, His children. As a god, you can choose to have your universe any way you like, but making it perfect will create nothing but perpetual children, ill-equipped to be gods. Yeah, like, it does seem like they have this whole thing where it's like, your infinite life experiences across the omniverse are preparing you to be a god. So it's like, if you didn't go through that, then you didn't go through proper god training or whatever, and they frown upon that. They're like poser ass bitch. But anyways, they'll hate you even more for the hellish boredom they'll suffer, and you'll be bored of tears watching nothing much happen. Okay, I guess I kind of understand it. It's the concept that like if God is an amalgam of like an infinite version, if God is an amalgam of infinite versions of themselves from across the multiverse, then your memories would be filled with tons of like infinite variety. And when you created your own universes, you likely would want to see like all these different possibilities because you would be looking at life from the perspective of a being that's lived infinite lives in the first place. So if you didn't live through infinite lives, including like good and bad lives, you'd create worlds that aren't super flavorful. But what's the point of like a flavorful world if there's like bad shit in it? Like I don't know. It still sounds weird to say that like evil's important because if not, the world would be like hella vanilla. It's like, but if vanilla's good, then I don't see what's wrong with that. Let's see. What if I don't want to be a god? Since who you are now is only a minute fraction of the super person you will become, you can't really say that for sure. Maybe when the time comes, you still won't want the awesome responsibility, have to watch atrocities take place, or damn people to a life of bored perfection. There's still a healthy balance in customizing your universe the way you want to see fit, but if you still aren't interested, then you can still take part in the community of gods and the realms of pure thought beyond all physical reality, who will comprise your family and friends, not to mention the infinite exploration possibilities of so many endless universes. When they talk about exploring endless universes, it makes me think of Lego Worlds, because that's what Lego Worlds is like. They're like, if you don't want to be a god, you can always play Lego Worlds. It's fine. Do you have a holy book? No need. All you need to know is right here on this website. Unless making up a bunch of life lesson fairy tales would make you feel better about yourself. If you're a future god, then you should really already naturally know the difference between right and wrong. However, someday we might create a short book as an alternative for the lengthy and rather preachy nonsensical gibberish of the Holy Bible and other man made religions, which were created as earthly control mechanisms by other men who want power over you and all your descendants. We want everyone to have free power over themselves. Do you have church service? Why? What more is there to say? Would it make you feel better to sit in a building and listen to boring nonsense for hours once a week? Would donating your hard earned money to us make you sleep better at night? Donate your money to a worthy cause directly, or go out and help someone in need. Go look in the mirror once a day and worship and love yourself, for you are your own future Lord. There's your church service right there. It's interesting how like snarky like the text is. Like it definitely has like a personality to it. Do you accept donations? Not at this time. However, we appreciate any support you give the website. How can I take your religion seriously if it seems to mock everything? It does have like a tone to it for sure. Because life should be fun and not so damn serious. If you can't have fun here for whatever reason, then you'll have it in the great beyond. For a lot of people, making light of life is a great way to cast off the shackles of hell that it brings to bear on many. Thanks, of course, to the God of this universe. Is this the mysterious meaning and purpose of life? Yes, it is. You finally know what this is all about. Satisfying, is it? That's interesting. Let me know in the comment section below and on our Discord. Do you know anyone who practices Godhoodism? Like who legitimately takes this as their religion? And if so, did they get into it from this website? How did you learn about Godhoodism? Did you learn about it like through this video? Did you like stumble upon the website and want to learn more about it, so then you like came to this video? Definitely let me know your thoughts in the comment section below and on our Discord. If you guys like AI Dungeon 2 videos, make sure you subscribe because I do those every day. I also do like a variety of other content sometimes. It's really based on my whim, whatever I do. But AI Dungeon 2 is something that I've been doing consistently, like every day. So if you like that, I highly recommend that you subscribe. Also, if you guys want to help support the channel, feel free to donate to our Cash App link in the description box below. Thank you all for watching. This is your host, your friend, your boy, Jump Like One Only, logging out. Peace, guys. Check it out.